Well, hello everybody. Greg Cumming here from Good News for Israel. It's a real joy to be with you today to take 5 and Selah. Selah means pause and consider, and it's good for us to do that. Do you reckon? It's a good thing to do every day. It's just to take time with the Lord and remember the most important things in life, not just the busiest things or the urgent things. Well, today we're continuing the journey of Abram as he's pitched his tent east of Bethel and west of Ai on a mountain there. Now he's gone down to Egypt with Lot and he's returned, and they've had to separate because the resources just weren't enough for both families. And so Lot was given the choice by Abram to take whichever part of the land that he wanted. If he went to the left, Abram would go to the right. If he went to the right, Abram would go to the left. Lot looked down, saw that the Jordan Valley was wonderful, very lush, beautiful, and so he chose that. And we're picking up the story there because obviously as they stood on that mountain, surrounded by their hundreds of tents, the whole community basically that had travelled from Haran, stayed in Shechem, moved up to Egypt and now come back to Bethel. There was a separation of the two families as Lot and his family went down to the lush Jordan Valley. What did it mean? Well, Abram stood there as that decision was made, took a deep breath. He looked around at the rocky, sparse mountain that he was on, and he's probably sad that his nephew and their families would be now moving away, because it's always difficult, I think, when a family member chooses to leave or is forced to leave. And Lot had picked the nicer looking area. So no doubt, I am sure, there was a big family meeting to reveal the news. Abram, as the head of the family, stood and told everyone the news. Then Lot told of the valley to the east where they would travel. He'd tell his family, and they patted each other on the back and joked, but they knew that they would miss their brothers. Of course, the women were probably crying and laughing and crying, and the children listened intently, asked lots of questions, and then the preparation came to leave, the packing of all the tents, the identification of the individual sheep and the cattle and the giving of gifts, and of course the final feast and the pulling up of the tent pegs, the loading up of the donkeys of all the gear, and then the goodbyes as Lot left, and around maybe 1,000 people, up to 1,000, 2,000 people went with him and started the descent towards their future down the Jordan Valley, and they would spread along the Jordan River and the Jordan Valley. The Bible says even to as far as Sodom. Genesis chapter 13 verse 12. Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain and pitched his tent even as far as Sodom. And then of course it was all quiet again. Half the community had gone. Abram lingered on the hill probably until the evening, a mixture of relief and sadness. So gave a big sigh, and then the next morning he stood there again, and he could see off in the distance where Lot had managed to pitch the camps down on the plains near the Jordan River. And then the Lord spoke to him in chapter 13 and verse 14, and the Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, lift up your eyes now, look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward, for all the land which you see I give to you and your descendants forever. And I will make your descendants as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could number the dust of the earth, then your descendants could also be numbered. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you. And so, at this very important place of Bethel or Luz, a reconfirmation of the covenant came to Abram regarding the future of his descendants. And we will, of course, speak about that in much more detail later. But what do you think? God has a purpose in the things and events that come to your life. Something may not seem quite right. A sadness may come upon you regarding a recent event or a circumstance. But then God speaks, lift up your eyes now and look from the place from where you are. It's time to move forward. So it's time to move forward into the next stage of his plan for your life. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to trust him for that? It's a big thing. Sometimes that does mean a separation from family or all that you know. Anyway, that's it for today's Take 5 and Selah, and we'll be continuing on with this beautiful story in the next session. So from me and all of our team today, the Lord bless you, and goodbye for now.